What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I am Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me I have some more RPG horror stories. Guess what? It's November. If you know, you know. So what I'll say is, I'm wishing you luck if you celebrate or do no not November. But if you do non-stop not November, then hey, have fun. Just drink a lot of water. Anyway, let's get some RPG horror stories for today. Horror story: The Princess Rule with an Iron Fist and Emotional Manipulation. Part 1. It's the 3rd year anniversary of this horror story taking place. I wrote the first version of the horror story a year after it was done and over, hoping it would give me closure. It did help. Now I returned to it one more time to edit it for brevity, and I might even end up posting it. It's gonna be an unreasonably long one. I try to divide it monstrously into chapters depending on campaign, so you should in theory be able to read sections about specific campaigns without losing too much context. Here's a short introduction to the most important people of the story. Princess is the main character who renders this a horror story. She played a Medusa cleric in the first campaign. Prince Consort is a princess's husband. He played a warlock in the first campaign. He would always try to roleplay in a way to avoid Princess getting upset, meaning he would throw his own character's personality to the curb, so hers would never make a bad experience ever. Mastermind is the GM of the campaign Princess introduced me to, who would later be a player in Princess's homebrewed setting. Summer is another player who joined the campaign at the same point I did. She played a druid. Princess quickly disliked her. Winter is Summer's sibling and player in Mastermind's second campaign. Rogue and Barbarian were quiet players in Mastermind's first campaign. Rose is my best friend and roommate who would later join the 2 other campaigns, and ultimately all the campaigns. Her relationship to me and the way it could express itself in-game would become another point of conflict for Princess. Wow, we got quite a cast over here. What a colorful way to put things. I like it. Princess and I were close friends a few years back. We played TTRPGs together back then too, before we had a huge falling out that also involved TTRPG differences. I ended up regretting how I behaved back then because I missed her. I matured over the years and felt that I had been pretty childish, had lacked understanding for her. She had been through a lot of emotional hardship and tended to react irrationally or in a hurtful manner because of past trauma. I looked for her online because even if we could not be friends any longer, I wanted to apologize to her, just for my own peace of mind. About 3 years ago, I actually found her via Facebook. I messaged her, we caught up with each other for a little bit, and to my great relief, she accepted my apology. We were friends again pretty soon, and it almost felt as if no time had passed at all, which was bad since we could eventually fight again almost the same way we had before, and I would learn that I had not been immature and lacking in understanding. The amount of understanding and accommodation she demanded of the people around her to consider them friends was not only unreasonable, but actively harmful. To see her demands fulfilled, she lied and manipulated and constantly weaponized other people's compassion for her suffering. At the same time, she would pit others against each other to make sure she would always be the most popular. Eventually, her whole scheme collapsed on itself, and we're no longer in touch. I learned more than I wanted during this year we were friends again, and I no longer have any regrets about how I treated her, other than how I've been too accommodating for way too long. While I took quite a few emotional issues with me from the whole ordeal, including a huge relapse in depression and a few legit panic attacks, I also got back into role-playing. Got to be part of a wonderful D&D campaign I'm still playing, and I made friends I would not want to miss. So if taking a deep dive into a horror story about an extremely manipulative and abusive person is your thing, buckle up. It's gonna be a long, long ride. You know, some people absolutely hate long stories. I don't mind them, as long as they're interesting, and this one seems to be pretty interesting so far. I may skip around different parts here and there, sometimes on accident, sometimes on purpose, but I would try to keep it nice and concise, you know? Odyssey of the Dragonlords, pre-campaign knowledge and character creation. While catching up, Princess would often tell me about the D&D campaign she was playing and deeply invested in. She would tell me lots about her character. I soon knew that she was playing a princess who was to be queen, but got cursed to be both turned into a Medusa and forgotten by history. Her story would be all about breaking her curse, then finding out who cursed her in the first place, so she could find the enemies within her future kingdom and deal with them. But after some time, Princess started voicing grievances with the campaign, mainly about the other players hardly engaging with her of her character's story. Soon after that, the group started looking for 2 new players. The other new addition to the group would be Summer, a personal friend of Mastermind's, while Princess asked me. Summer picked up spellcasting focused druid, and since Barbarian played the only melee focused character, I decided to go melee as well with a fighter. I offered to tie his back to Princess's character, since she felt like nobody engaged with hers, and I wanted to do something nice for her. that would turn out to be a huge mistake. I have a lot of questions. I'm assuming this was approved by a mastermind by the DM about her character being a Medusa. I'm assuming maybe they also have the same effect as a Medusa. Honestly, I don't think I ever checked the Medusa stat block in D&D. I need to check up and see. I'm assuming it's like the Greek Medusa, where they like have snakes for hair and like can just petrify people. But the fact that nobody wanted to engage with Princess, I feel like maybe it's more towards the character being a bit of a one note and maybe not that interesting or that welcoming or that friendly, maybe too aggressive. Sometimes people think they want to make the most tragic hero a heroine ever. Heroine? Don't do heroin, don't do drugs. But you know what I mean. Sometimes they want to make the most tragic character ever. Woe is me, I went through so much stuff. But then they just make a character that just resents the entire world. And isn't that fun to be around? You really got to think about the relatability. Because just because you find being tragic and bitter interesting doesn't mean everybody else is going to. They might just look at your character and be like, wow, they're snarky and rude and angry. I probably don't want to have anything to do with them. No, thank you. That's actually what happened to a lot of VR chat roleplay characters that I was like playing with. They made characters that are just like, woe is me, tragic backstory, but like they became so unlikable and agitating and angry and mean that you just didn't want to have anything to do with them. So I just had my character just do other things with people that were pleasant to speak to because it just made sense to me. The campaign was chock full with larger than life, ordained by destiny kind of characters. So I decided to go similar in grandeur, but different in role. I went for an anti-hero. The Lancer to Princess's leader, the Zuko to her Aang. Her character and mine knew each other from youth, but they had been rivals. When she had been the popular, intelligent, beautiful princess chosen by a goddess, mine was the personal charge of the villainous king who had plotted to marry the two, since the king didn't want her to rule. Eventually, way after the princess had been cursed and erased from history, Mapfaito broke free of the king's teachings and fled. He turned into a guilt-ridden, quiet, and sullen type who really wanted redemption but didn't feel like he deserved it. I'd imagine he'd be accepted because of much-needed skills on one hand, and because Princess turned Medusa's desperate wish for some connection to a former life, even if it wasn't a good one. I could not have been any more wrong with my prediction. My prediction, the princess wants to be the greatest ever, the most important character ever, the Mary Sue of all Mary Sues. I'm the most important person, everybody else is beneath me. Wow, that's my guess. I don't know, man. The name Princess kind of makes me think maybe the more like prima donna kind of queen kind of character. I don't know. Does that make sense? Hopefully it makes sense. Odyssey of the Dragon Lords 2. She bends and retcons roleplay to her liking. Princess bending everything to her will started small. At first, she just influenced character dynamics and roleplay in the direction she wanted in character. For example, she didn't play her Medusa as having a bad or conflicting opinion of Mapfaito at all. Said she was kind, gentle, and insecure about her monstrous Medusa nature in his presence more than anyone else's. When Mapfaito revealed a darker part of his backstory, namely having murdered all the king's order, one of the victims even having been a Medusa, Princess' character had no issue with it, even though it should have played into her internal monster conflict. She immediately forgave him, hugged him, and had her own emotional breakdown about how harrowing it was to learn what the king had done, and that she now had to fight her own family. Would only notice later that this scene is basically an example how most roleplay scenes would go. Princess would immediately do whatever needed doing to get other people's pain or concern out of the way, instead make it about her own character. Next, Princess asked for text RP between her and my character. We'd done text RP before, between the princess and the fighter back when they were still at court, just so we could feel out the dynamic they had before they would meet up. Princess now wanted a roleplay scene between our characters between sessions since we cut at camp. I reluctantly agreed. The text RP ended up being nothing but her character whining and needing support and reassurance for an entire evening, including but not limited to my character having to help her deal with her self-inflicted wounds. Yes, she self-harmed by tying ribbons around her arms so tightly they cut her. The emotional support role wasn't what I wanted my character in. He was not supposed to be cold, but to be out of touch with emotions and fighting his own demons. The way Princess set up that scene, however, made me feel as though I had the option to either toss out how I want to play my character in favor of supporting hers, or have my character be an absolutely horrible person. Though maybe I just didn't have it in me to play my character appropriately in that moment. I don't know. The text RP ended with Princess writing out a several paragraph-long scenes of her character having her personal 5-minute dramatic anime overcoming by darkness moment scene with hair or snakes blowing in the wind, including praying and striking dramatic poses in front of the night sky. Yeah, seriously. While my character got to stand in the background and watch. So you were there for character validation, I guess? Or you were the captured audience that was just captive and listening to her spew a bunch of stuff, bunch of woe is me. Literally, it's the same thing that I talked about. It's a character that's all about woe is me. Oh, your woes are there, but my woes are even harder. Look how harder I'm woeing. Woe is me. It's basically just looking for somebody to validate the character's depressive state. And you know what? I've seen these kind of people in VR chat roleplay and they suck to be around. Not as people, but their characters. They're just obnoxious and unlikable, and I don't want to be around them. In future sessions, it became very clear that Princess was role-playing towards a romance between our characters. Was it clear? I was surprised, but curious to see where the complicated story would go. My impression was that in their youth, the two of them had pretty much nothing in common. Consequently, the princess had never been interested, which was why the king's attempt at matchmaking never worked. When my character hinted at that, however, Princess' retconning power activated. Then Medusa revealed to him that the true reason they had never been a couple was that she had been a nymph before she had been cursed, and nymphs were known for their enthralling beauty, a feature that would allow them to cast spells such as Charm Person. The princess feared to accidentally make Mephisto fall for her with her inherent magic, which is why she never made a move and left all the courting to him. Had he actually made a move on her, there would have been a couple. First and foremost, of course, the feature as written does not support the way she roleplayed it. I guess it was just an excuse for her to portray her princess as suffering for being so incredibly beautiful. It's a common fantasy. She also had to have retconned this excuse in because my character hadn't been part of the campaign from day one, but her NPC fiancé had been. A fiancé with who, as Princess had told me before, extremely bookish and oblivious to romantic advances. So the tragically beautiful nymph princess had to more or less shove herself into his face for him to notice. So she was never worried about accidentally charming him, I suppose. But even more importantly, back when Mephisto was instructed to win her princess over, she was 15 and he was 19, and their emotional maturity was worlds apart as well. She was a socialite who would party a lot, while he was a soldier. I didn't feel iffy about their age gap as long as it was obvious a political maneuver aiming for a prim and proper engagement that would not be turned into a wedding for years. But with Princess arguing that my character should have been moved forward while her character was a minor, I emotionally noped out. Since her engagement with her NPC fiancé, who was of the same age as my character, was made public when she was 18, they were dating while her character was a minor. She wanted my character to make a move while she was 2. This was both her character's and her own opinion on the matter. Gross. Don't encourage people that are of age to make a move on minors. I don't care what kind of romance, weird romance stuff you got going on. I don't care who's a princess or not. Just don't do that. The relationship between our characters turned out very different, all in all. Started with willful ignorance of some parts of my character's story and bending others with the aid of retconning. She turned an Aang-Zuko type relationship into a very young adult romance with lots of emotional drama with her at the center, and my edgy boy yearning for redemption, constantly fawning over her because he felt guilty instead of brooding in a corner. Certainly expected something different from my character and his role in the campaign, but I foolishly decided to roll with it, being a yes and roleplayer and all. Still, I felt she overstepped and took control of my character's backstory for me, but nothing that I couldn't be worked with, right? Right? I mean, you know you have self-autonomy. You can always stop it, and you can always talk out of character, say, hey, I don't think I like the way this is going. I think I'm gonna play my character how I want to. I'm assuming you probably didn't want to be like me and be like, my character's mine. I want to have my own broody solo. Broody. I like the word broody. I want to have my own broody solo storyline for myself. Thank you very much. Back off, Mrs. I don't know why I said Mrs. But at the end of the day, you probably should have told her that, hey, I kind of want to do things myself too, and not just always be like attached to the hip to your character. If that's okay, that's cool and all cool. Yeah, I'll do just that. 2 more campaigns start. Around the time our group started expanding, issues with the princess came up in all 3 campaigns. They even started intertwining and bleeding into each other, so it's very difficult to separate them from each other. And as many of the issues start simultaneously and only escalating later on, the red flags only become apparent later on as well. So please don't judge before joining Princess's homebrew campaign. For example, at that point, we had only had minor disagreements with each other, and her breakdown about her character in Mastermind's second campaign had not happened yet. I'm assuming you guys are playing these campaigns separately or like at the same time? I hope you're not playing a bunch of campaigns at the same time. I'm assuming one campaign ends, the other one begins. Please tell me you're not like playing 3 campaigns all the same time. That sounds crazy. But some people do like crazy. Some people absolutely love crazy. I kind of like crazy, but crazy with myself, on myself, to myself. You know what I mean? Maybe you don't. I don't even know. Anyway, doesn't matter. Mastermind's second campaign. She has to have the most special character or just one have fun. Mastermind started a second campaign. Players in that campaign will be Princess, Rose, my closest friend and roommate, Summer, and Winter, Summer's sibling. This time, issues started during character creation, but stretched into the campaign as well. Princess now tried to influence other players' characters' creation in a way that would benefit her, especially to make her character better or more special by comparison. Princess decided to play a group phase with an unconventional class pick, a druid. She wanted to play an environmentalist activist who would sneak into high society events and free the animals kept there in fancy menageries, which is totally fine, or at least up to this point it was. I decided to have a take on the wayward noble kind of character Princess played the other campaign. I picked an elven prince who had gotten snuck in a pocket dimension long enough for his entire civilization to fall. I wanted for him to be a relic of a long-forgotten age, someone brilliant, who was also very arrogant and clinging to his past status, even though he didn't hold any meaning anymore. In short, I wanted to balance his most special trait, the nobility, with his worst one, which was a direct result of the former. And then Princess wanted her character to use the charlatan background to pretend to be, you probably guessed it, a princess. I was not thrilled, because other than me being sick of her pretty princesses, I knew having a pretend noble in the group would be sorts of conflict. My prince would consider her an imposter, and Princess always asked not to establish any conflict between player characters, so to accommodate her in that regard, I would have to drop my character's arrogance and entitlement. Princess noticed I wasn't thrilled and offered to change her character's ruse, but when I took her up on the offer, all hell broke loose. I assumed she expected me to decline and say that she could of course play a princess again. She wailed how without being a princess, her druid wasn't the character she had envisioned. How it was always her who had to change her character so others could have what they wanted. As she had wanted to, just this once, play a character without having to make selfless changes for the sake of others. You don't have to play a princess the whole time. You don't even have to play up noble the whole time. The whole druid face that's an activist tries to protect animals, that sounds like a decent character idea. Go for it. Just do that instead. You don't have to be a princess every single time. I mean, obviously, yeah, you should be playing the things that you want to play and the things you're interested in, but there's nothing wrong with thinking outside the box or inside your little princess crown and trying something a little bit different, a little bit strange, a little bit new. Nothing is wrong with not playing as a princess. Maybe hell, you'll get a better perspective on the kind of characters you want to make. I trust I don't have to point out how she had so far been the one to change other people's characters around her rather than the other way around. In hindsight, her claims are obviously ridiculous, but at the time I was guilt-ridden because I felt her misery was my fault. That meant I had to fix it whenever it took me putting all that time and energy into trying to make her feel better. I spent 1.5 weeks talking to her about the situation, her character, from whenever I got up to around 6 in the morning, which was when I would collapse back into bed. Told her she could play her princess and I'd switch characters. She refused, but then went on about how her even having been asked to consider someone else rather than herself for a moment had put her in depressive episode. She didn't want to play the character anymore. She'll probably just not have fun in the campaign, no matter how we would resolve the conflict. That is, of course, an extreme case of guilt tripping, but we get stupid when we care about people, and I was determined not to let this friendship break for a second time, so I did my damnedest to help her. I even helped her both design her character's outfit and to assemble a description for the artist she wanted to commission. My mental health suffered a lot, slept very little and worried 24/7 about her. Eventually, I did manage to get her to be excited about the campaign again. OP, I have a genuine question, and this is not me being like character Morrow or anything. I'm just genuinely asking, like, did you have an attraction to this person? Because you're going all out for this supposed friendship. You're trying to go the whole like I can fix her route. Like, if you had an attraction, that's completely fine, but I honestly don't know many people that would stay up the entire night trying to console somebody over a D&D character until 6 in the morning before they go and pass out. I've never done that to other people unless I was like dating them, and the only time I would ever sacrifice my sleep and everything that I am is when I'm with a significant other. That is a lot, dude. You talking to somebody about the D&D character and try to get them out of depressive state because they want to try to feel miserable about themselves because suddenly they can't play a princess anymore, or maybe they want to play a princess but don't want to continue being the whole woe is me character archetype in real life, and you stayed up until 6 in the morning consoling them about a D&D character? That's a lot. You go to help somebody over a D&D character. You console. I mean, yes, I get it. Some people have really strong strong connection with the character, but not until 6 in the morning. People gotta sleep at some point. Sometimes you just can't fix them. Sometimes you gotta let them just be as they are. You can't fix everybody's issues, especially if they can't handle the D&D character not being a princess. Whoa, what a tragedy. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just misreading the entire situation. Maybe it is as ridiculous as it reads. That was until the second character creation related drama began, this time involving Princess and Summer. Princess never talked to Summer about it and complained to a mastermind and me instead. It all started with Princess complaining that Summer's monk had a 16 wisdom at level 3, which she felt encroached on her own druid's 16 wisdom. She wouldn't hear that her wanting a character's main stat to be the highest stat in that ability in a party was a personal hang-up, rather than an official part of D&D etiquette. At this point, Princess had it out for Summer. She compared the two characters relentlessly and saw attempts to undercut her own everywhere. Summer described her character turning invisible as becoming one of the shadows that was too similar to her ASMR wildfire druid's wings of smoke. The monk liked animals and had to pet every stray cat. Her druid is supposed to be the animal friend. I had to spend hours after each session trying to convince her that Summer's monk was not a personal attack on Princess. Eventually, she began criticizing Summer in Mastermind's first campaign too, where Princess Cleric and Summer Druid were both wisdom based too. Princess decided that Summer had always tried to encroach on her character. Her favorite argument about this issue was, I just want to be a little bit special too. You are special, you get to play as a princess. What do you mean, princess? God forbid another character that also uses wisdom, a monk of all things, God forbid, also has 16 in wisdom. You know what they don't have? Druid spellcasting, wild shape, any of the druid features at all. You have that uniquely to yourself. Oh, there's Shadow Monk that can go into the shadows and turn invisible. Yeah, because it's part of the subclass. And yeah, you have your own cool thing that you druid can do as well. Just because the character has some tiniest minutiae similarity. I would understand if, let's say for example, both Summer and Princess were also playing a druid of same subclass, of same race, of same stats, and basically did the same thing together. And then maybe Princess was like, but I want to feel special too. But you are special. You're the only druid in a party that can wild shape and do druid features and have druid spells. What more do you want? In which other way do you not feel special? You're a wildfire druid, for crying out loud. You can spawn some sort of flaming elemental to fight alongside you as a bonus action. How do you not feel special? You already can do some cool things. You get fire spells. The Shadow Monk doesn't get fire spells. They just get punch, and a little bit of shadow. They get some shadow powers they can use every now and then on a key? I think a key or focus. I know D&D uses focus now. It's key for me. I'm sticking with D&D 2014. I like that a lot more. But still, you already feel special and you're a princess again. How do you not feel special at this point? What more do you want? Do you want a medal, a tiara, an award? Jesus, can't believe other people have to be nerfed so Princess can feel special. She argued this while playing one and nymph Princess turned into Medusa, who had been so beautiful she feared accidentally making people fall in love with her, who was the most brilliant philosopher of her generation, beloved of pretty much everyone but evil people, whose personal mentor had been goddess, who'd been bestowed with divine powers by another goddess, and also on a personal quest to break her curse and become a queen. And two, an ASMR wildfire druid who wasn't really a descendant of a celestial but the avatar of the forest, created by the forest as an advocate against encroaching humanity. Yeah, she was the Lorax, and she had avatar of the forest, of the wild, one must say, was the party's face, who'd use her beguiling beauty to charm her way into the wealthy people's mansion, had connections to every important faction in the main city. Oh, that was exhausting to say, but yeah, she is extremely special. She's literally, okay, she's still playing the Medusa character from before, so she is indeed special. She is playing a special important character. I hope for both characters, she's playing super special important characters that can do some crazy things. What more special do you want? You know what I need? I want to be a tiefling, that's a gambler, that was influenced by a succubus to become into a pack and then travel to a different world and bonded with a cursed weapon. That's enough for me. That's enough for me. I get to play Morrow and get to be silly self and get to have fun with my friends and get to go run around grumbling about stuff and gambling. How great, that's perfect. It's perfect. But what more does she want? She just all these accolades. What more do you want? But she constantly felt she wasn't allowed to be special, read special enough, and felt that one, gnome druid on her quest to become arch druid, and two, cursed human monk were stealing her thunder. In some ways, she managed to influence me enough for me to become hyper aware of every little problem or imperfection in Summer's roleplay. While I fought against Princess' extreme hostility, I became annoyed by some of the things Summer did. That way, Princess managed to alienate me from playing with Summer in the first campaign, and the friendship between her druid and my fight was suffered, which was a success for Princess, I suppose. Imagine having somebody like this literally tear you away from friendship with other people. I don't think this is okay. This is just straight up a person that just manipulating you to just dislike somebody because they dislike them, over not feeling special when the character is super awesome, extra special. Their character is basically, practically a Mary Sue, a perfect character with no flaws whatsoever, or too much of a tragic heroine that needs to redeem herself because she gotta out tragic everybody else. Princess is starting to get on my nerves really badly. 3.5. She plots and lies to make herself look good. Much later, after the whole thing imploded and Mastermind, Summer and I started talking about our experiences with Princess, some of her dishonest behavior came to light. Princess weaponized her and my fight about her playing another, pretend or not, princess to make herself look good. Mastermind told us that Winter, a player we didn't know yet, thought about playing a noble as well. Since I relented and told Princess she should play whatever background she wanted, this is a non-issue. Still, Mastermind asked us both not to let Winter know that there has been any concern in the first place, because Mastermind argued Winter was insecure and might outright leave the party to avoid conflict. We agreed to bury the issue, but Princess went behind our backs and made sure Winter knew. She talked to Summer and told her I was stirring up trouble because I wanted my character to be the only noble in the group. Not picking a noble might cause issues because I was unreasonable. She kindly warned her, you see. She relied on Summer's delivering the message, I suppose, and sure enough, Winter came up with a different character, and both Summer and Winter were apprehensive about playing with me at all. They would later tell me so. You know, at some point you gotta ask yourself, is it worth even having Princess in a group if she's just gonna be doing this kind of stuff behind your back and literally just gaslighting and lying just so they can get their character to be the only princess ever by throwing somebody else under the bus that wasn't even a part of it? Is it really worth playing with her? Is it really worth spending time until 6 in the morning talking to her and consoling her about her characters? And woe is me. Seriously, the whole woe is me shtick is getting old. Mastermind will also later tell me how Princess complained to her about how me not wanting other nobles in the group was unfair because I had no issue bringing in another heir to the throne into the first campaign either. This is a gross misstatement. The fact that she put it all through my character joining the first campaign took anything away from her, while I explicitly made sure that my character's story wouldn't reach hers, was truly baffling. I'd even run my backstory by her and assured her that the king wanted my character on the throne was an evil plot, and her character was a legitimate heir. I assume she did all this to make sure that she looked good, like someone who cared for everyone and suffered because of the actions of others, and others having bad opinions about each other was an added bonus to make sure she would always be the most popular. How it came to that conclusion would become a little more clear along the way. Princess campaign. She micromanages everything to live her personal fantasy. Princess started another campaign in a homebrew setting of hers. She had GM'd a campaign before. Mastermind would be another player. She also asked Rose and me to join. I was apprehensive because she had told me bits and pieces of her first campaign and I really didn't vibe with the kind of story she had created. Most if not all of her NPCs had a feel of self-insert GMPC to me, with about 90% of them being insanely pretty and magically gifted dainty ladies of high status wearing flowing dresses. The plot was free the goddess, half-goddess princess from being used for her power by the evil wizard. I doubted the second campaign would be different and meaningful way, even though she assured me that it would be when I diplomatically told her about our differing tastes. And because I didn't want to hurt her feelings by telling her that I didn't want to, I ended up joining her campaign. Dude, it's okay to say no. Dude, do that. I don't know who you are. Like, it's okay to say no. You are allowed to say no, especially if you don't want to do something. Hey, you want to join my campaign with every single character as a DNPC, 90% basically like me, and I'm making you go through this DNPC story? No. See? So easy. Even a dumb tiefling can do it. So can you. The problem started during character creation. She would hover over everything and restricted what kind of weapons we were allowed to have, which race or class we could play, and even what we could spend our starting money on, and everything would have to fit her setting, which was her go-to argument for prohibiting everything that didn't appeal to her personal taste. Meaning, for example, while there was a huge fantasy machinery in her world, we weren't allowed warforged, artificers, firearms, or even a collapsible rod. Great, take all the fun out of the games. Yeah, let's take away Artificer, it's a pretty cool class, there's a lot of complexity. Let's take away guns too, because guns are so terrible. And Warforged? Psh, we can't have Warforged in here. Collapsible Rod? That would ruin the economy of the game. I get some restrictions are fine and all, and I understand why some DMs may not want to run Artificer. But everything else, really? Like, for real, everything else, including Artificer, like, takes away all sort of fun from the game, I swear. She also required all the characters to be heroes, which by her definition meant that moral ambiguity should be kept at a minimum. We could play characters that would help those in need. I understand that some campaigns require characters to be mostly morally white, but Princess would later use this requirement to force us into a specific playstyle that fed into her wish fulfillment. More on that later. She liked my idea of a very flirtatious, hedonistic, and generous bard. Original, I know, but would bend him and his story to her liking from the get-go. She populated the circus he grew up with 46 additional NPCs, many of which were pretty magical ladies, and completely shifted the vibe I was going for. She was also eager to discuss which of these pretty magical ladies my bard would have been into and have flings with. She developed a strong interest in a specific pretty magical girl I agreed my bard had a fling with. Princess even wrote a little not safe for work scene involving the two. I didn't mind initially and found it flattering how into my character she seemed to be, but once I had read it was obvious that it wasn't about my character at all, but about how Princess's NPC got everything Princess was into. It was about her wish fulfillment, which she threw my bard's personality to the curb for. Felt as though my character was a tool for her self-insert desires. Ding ding ding! And this is the time you decided to just be like, okay, I'm done with this. I don't want my characters to be a tool for your character's desires. No? There's still more to read? They never learn. They never learn. The red flags out there, you have horrible experiences, and still you decide to stick it out. Well, I mean, I can't blame you. You're in a tough spot, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm more aware of these horror stories that I'm just more impatient with them and I'm just more ready to just bow out. I don't know. I have no idea, honestly. Maybe it could be. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's Maybelline. Let's continue. Princess's campaign. 5. Potentially romantic interaction between others becoming a trigger. After all our player characters was set and we started joking about character dynamics on our campaign Discord, she voiced concerns about Rose and me. Since we talked about our characters in terms of a ship dynamic, she actually argued that we would turn her campaign into our personal dating sim. And this was the first time I told her how deeply hurt I was that she thought I would treat her campaign that selfishly. Oh yeah, because you're gonna make the campaign about yourselves, guys, instead of about Princess and her all amazing, prettiest DNPC magical girls ever. Wow, you take away all the focus from her characters and herself instead of having fun by yourselves. Wow, what a horrible thing. Players having fun? We can't allow that. I'm Princess. I gotta be the most important person ever. Woo! She backpedaled enough to make excuses for her behavior, asking me to understand why she needed me to reassure her that I wouldn't do anything that could potentially result in what she was scared of, namely anything going wrong in the campaign not being fun. When this whole drama, including me reassuring her everything would be fine and she'd be a great DM, was over with, she had the gall to say she had wished the conversation to be about her worries rather than my indignation. She felt as though she had spent most of the time apologizing to and comforting me, rather than me coaxing her fears and worries from her, trying to comfort her without having her limit who I was allowed to play with. Oh yeah, she's upset the conversation was all about her. Why do you stick around with this kind of person? They sound insufferable. If only this had been the only time Princess tried to throw a wedge between characters. If only this was the time you decided to finally leave and stop having Princess just walk over you all the time. What is the point of sticking around with this person? What are you getting out of this? Is this one, like, I know this is a meme like, you know, I can fix her or I can fix him. But is this a moment where you're like actually thinking I can fix her and that's why you stick around with it? Because there's like some sort of attraction? Because otherwise, I don't understand why. The only reason I would think this would be happening is that you guys have some sort of an attraction and you kind of sort of low-key like her, but like you understand she's a little bit obnoxious with her princess behavior, but you want to fix her, but you're also having a really difficult time sticking around with it. What is the thing that's driving you to stick around in this campaign? It can't be just friendship. There's no way it's just friendship. I want to believe there's some reason why you just unreasonably decided to stick with this campaign instead of playing literally any other game in the world. No D&D is better than bad D&D. So why'd you stick around? Because Princess was very adamant that she didn't want any intergroup conflict. We try to feel odd character dynamic out beforehand by text RPing small non-canon snippets between characters. During our short but amazing interaction, we found out the masterminds Genasi and my bard were fun, lighthearted, and flirty together. Soon after, Princess confided in me again. This time, you might have guessed that if you were any better at recognizing pattern than I was, it was about mine and Mastermind's character. Princess revealed Mastermind's backstory for her Genasi to me, how it was part of a problem she had with character relationships for my bard. The story was all about freedom and lack thereof. The Genasi had run away from home with the wrong guy as a teen. She ended up at a circus where she was unknowingly held prisoner by the man she had considered her closest friend, the circus director. He also used the circus to lure the young women. He transformed them into birds, put them into cages, and feed on their energy. When the Genasi uncovered all that, her friend allowed her to leave, but if she wasn't back after 1 year, he would kill another at the circus. So the Genasi's goal was to live a happy life as possible for that 1 year before return to her friend to make sure she wouldn't kill anyone else. Mastermind's plan was that the story would be revealed to the group by then, and then the group would confront the circus director. Now, Prince's problem was the Genassi's age. She said the mastermind only made her of age and all because Princess required her to be 18 at the very least. By now, the Genassi was planned to be somewhat between 21 and 23, but Princess couldn't shake the knowledge that the Genassi had originally been 17, been through a lot of dark stuff involving men having power over her. I've since learned the mastermind never planned to play a minor. She planned for a character to have run away from home when she had still been, but she should then spend a few years at the circus, and by the start of the campaign, she was supposed to be very much an adult. I didn't know that at this point though. Princess then told me, because she couldn't shake the feeling of Mastermind's character being a minor, that my bard really shouldn't flirt with her, and this was of course what it was all really about. Oh, but suddenly one OP's character, the broody knight, flirts with your 15-year-old princess character. Suddenly that's okay? Seriously, what are your boundaries, princess? What are your lines here? They were of age when they're flirting then. I know 100% that princess is using this as some sort of manipulation tactic. I spent several days again, only with a break for sleep, talking to her through this. She didn't get to treat Mastermind's character like anything she was not, and she couldn't make decisions about her, such as what her character was allowed to do. All this culminated in Princess ultimately accusing me of being weirdly insistent on flirting with a minor. Suppose her accusation was meant to make me back off immediately, and I did, but I got angry enough at her accusation that she revealed the reason she had issues with any kind of flirty behavior between Mastermind's character, 21 to 3 years old, but feeling like a minor, and mine, 26-year-old. Now, renewed content warning, the following bit involves mentions of SA-related trauma. She revealed to me that she was a survivor of sexual abuse. She'd been in a circle of friends that was generally past 30 in the age where she was in her late teens, and her boyfriend of the time was around 40. She had felt compelled to go along with their partying, drinking, and sexual behavior. She didn't understand how abusive the situation actually was until years later, because she was being invited to drinks and parties, got a lot of compliments, was praised for being so mature for her age. First, I was shaken by what she had told me, and I comforted her. Princess explained to me that this was the reason why she saw Mastermind's character as being the victim of abuse of the same kind, because she had originally been a minor and now changed, as in pretended to be older to fit with the crowd, my way more sexually mature 26-year-old. I'm not sure if the story is true. If it is, however, Princess, I'm sorry. That wasn't okay. It wasn't okay what people have done to you. It's awful. It's terrible. However, I hope you're not going to use this story as to try to manipulate OP in the situation just to get him to just back off from flirting. I feel like if it was anybody flirting at all, Princess would still try to find ways to worm their way around to make it about their character and not about other people flirting and having a fun time, because you can't have a campaign without focusing on the princess, you know? I don't know what's the point of telling it. I mean, obviously, maybe they're sharing it for a reason, but also mind you, Princess did make their princess character be attracted to somebody when their character was 15, and Opie's character, the Dark Broody Knight, was 18 or 19 or something, and then the weird nerd that the princess was trying to pursue was also 18. So Princess themselves made a minor character that was like trying to get romantically involved with other players' characters. So it's like hypocritical in a way. I don't know. It's just really strange to just bring that up out of nowhere. Princess would now use her trauma as a thought-terminating cliche whenever she couldn't make any concise arguments. Situation just triggered her past trauma, and I want to in no way insinuate that she didn't suffer from what she said she suffered through, but I do question the way she employed her trauma as a reason for why Mastermind's character should not flirt with grown adults, including my character. For example, as I wrote earlier, Princess's nymph Princess had been a high society party gal and had a variety of sexual partners before she was engaged, which was made public when she turned 18. My fighter should have made a move on her when she was a minor. All this did not trigger her, so maybe you can forgive me that I do doubt her sincerity. There's one thing I insisted on, that it was unfair to Mastermind to prohibit her character from doing something without Mastermind even knowing about it, and without giving her the chance to change her character. Mastermind should know that Princess was deeply uncomfortable with her character, so that Mastermind could, for example, pick another character altogether if she wanted to play a character who would be allowed to be flirty. Princess' suggestion to evolve the matters were different. The romance ban for Mastermind's character would only be about player characters, because Princess would certainly not be triggered if she was involved and in control of the situation. It certainly was very convenient for Princess. She also thought about prohibiting romance between player characters altogether, which seemed hypocritical to me considering the time and effort she put into a romance between our characters in the other campaign. I got the feeling that Princess would always have reasons, no matter the campaign, to argue for a setup that involved her rather than others in any given romantic plot. That suspicion emboldened me enough to tell her that it was a PC romance ban. I'd pick another character to play because I didn't want to play a flirty character who wasn't allowed to flirt with other people he traveled with. That made her back off the idea. I think she just wants to make a character to flirt with you. Honestly, just for the sake of making a character all about themselves. Find a character that she can flirt with you so that it can be all about her princess character. I don't know, man, there's something going on. I honestly think the princess had attraction to you and wanted to claim you, but they also wanted to make everything about themselves too. This is just my assumption. I don't know if it's true or not. This story is crazy. Again, I argued I should just play another character. I didn't feel comfortable playing a character that could be a potential trigger her without her being able to narrow it down at all. She explicitly said it doesn't have to be anything sexual. And again, she backed off immediately. I cannot stress enough that I didn't threaten her, but I would not want Princess or me to be constantly stressed out or walking on eggshells. I'll pick a character who's ace, for example, or in a monogamous relationship from the start. But suddenly Princess bent over backwards to explain to me how much she loved my bard. She even wailed about how she shouldn't have told me anything about her trauma. She just suffered quietly, and so on and so forth. She seemed more distressed with the situation now than when she talked about her trauma. So against my better judgment, I gave in and stuck with the bard. You should have gave her the middle finger and got out of there. This is pointless. This is not worth it. Why are you bending over backwards for this person? Suddenly I don't know where the trauma doesn't matter. No. Please do play a flirty bard. I want to flirt with the flirty bard. I just want no other player characters flirt with the flirty bard. That's basically what she's saying. It's basically what Princess is saying. She just wants to be the only one to flirt with the flirty bard so she can make it all about her own NPC characters. But nobody else can flirt with the flirty bard. That's a player flirt ban. There's only a few paragraphs left, so hopefully there's a proper resolution to this whole thing. This is the promise we ended agreeing on, which I had to come up with because Princess needed to be walked through her emotions, and to a solution more often than not. My bard would not romance Mastermind's character. He would only flirt with her because it was his general way of engaging with most people. Princess would watch the dynamic between the characters unfold, would see if she would become more comfortable with it. She would give Mastermind a chance to roleplay her character as a grown woman. Maybe her anxiety would dwindle away, and eventually she would even lift the romance embargo. So another few days and nights would spend to help a friend of mine work through emotional trauma, right? Well, I later learned the Princess told Mastermind the Princess primarily comforted me, even though I texted her day and night to help her calm down and to stop breaking down about problems she created herself, so she wouldn't allow either Mastermind or me to just change characters. Premature warm-up. So this story is about at its midway point. It gets a lot more intense and at parts of kinds of reason in the second half. Let me know if you're interested in it, then I'll post it. Not many people have seen the story so far, but I need to see the second part. Give me the second part. I need to know why you decided to stick around. Here, I'm grabbing your head. I need to know why you stuck around for this long. I need to know. You better have a good enough reason, good enough excuse, and good enough explanation. I need to see the final part, so you better post it as fast as you see this video. Actually, I don't even know if people even see these videos. I think just go on RPG Horror Stories. I hope somebody in the comments for the story encourages you to post the second part. I need to know why all this madness, why all this madness, why all this time invested into a person who is so unlikable. Why'd you torture yourself like that? There's no way that you were just a glutton for punishment. I hope you weren't. I'm looking forward to part 2. You better post it quick. And with that, that's gonna be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales tomorrow. Bye-bye.